If you want to make sure you stay in good conversation, you gotta tune in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. That's me, Thursday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the only station, WHPR TV 33. See you soon. Rise and shine, up and at 'em. I know you are. It's an amazing new day, full of infinite possibilities. Great morning to you. You're officially tuned in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. And I am Collette, and you all know I do my curtsy because that's what I do, because I have to reverence you, because I know that you could be anywhere, doing anything, watching any channel, because there's so much that's happening right now. And you could just go to a plethora of places. Or it could be surfing the web or on your phones, whatever it is. But you chose to tune in to our conversation this morning, 7 a.m. on WHPR TV 33 or Comcast 91 or Roku or watching us streaming live. However you got here this morning, thank you. I appreciate you. You know it's Freestyle Friday. Normally from 7 to 8, we're going to continue the conversation. Let me just let you know. We started yesterday with the dialogue about the observance of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, which will take place on Monday. And so I asked, and in the midst of all of this, are we there yet? You remember that movie, Are We There Yet? Are we there yet? Or, as a dream suggests, it is a ideology or an imagery that we conjure up that is subconsciously presented to us in our slumber. And then in our awakening hours, I don't know if we actively believe that we can even obtain it. A lot of us revel in dreams. You know, when it's a great dream, when it's a feel-good dream, when it captures something of experiences past or a beautiful future for you, we feel good and we stay in that. But then when we get into our realities, I believe that sometimes we forget about the dream. And I believe that we think it is just that, a dream. And so I asked us that if we are going to relive, as we all do, the I Have a Dream speech, which you know, schools across the country are going to be reliving it. Churches across this nation are going to be reliving it. Everyone is going to give the speech. Pastors are going to create sermons about it. And so after we do all of that and we pay the homage as we rightfully should, and we talk about the progress that happened on that hot summer day, August 28th of 1963, and what it looked like as more than 250,000 plus people were gathered on Washington as a march on Washington with 50 or so plus presenters, with the last being Dr. King, to talk about civil rights and our goals and our desires to have fair and equal jobs, freedoms, housing, opportunities, which we all have been indoctrinated to believe that that is what makes America great, that that is this democracy that we believe that we live in, or perhaps it's the illusion of the democracy. And so I asked this yesterday, and all the lines are lit. I see you all. I'm going to get to you. And I asked us yesterday that at the end of all of it, is that really where we are? Because 50 plus years later, we're still having the same conversations. And with the politics that are happening in this nation, specifically over the last couple of days, more so than ever, it appears that the dream wasn't everybody's dream. And that the dream was a great conversation to have about the ideology of an America that we want to live. And if we don't see it right in our lifetimes, then we will continue to work for that of our children and our children's children. And it sounds great. And then in the midst of all of that, where are we? So today we're still having the same conversations. And I believe, and some callers pointed out yesterday, and you all are just quite astute, and I know that you know that I know. I value you, and we couldn't have the conversation without each other. It's more than one way to have a conversation, because our goals are to be educated, enlightened, and empowered. And so in the midst of all of it, you all said that, again, maybe we're still taking the posture that we're waiting for someone to save us. We're still waiting to be saved. And that's from a national perspective. That is from a local perspective. We can even make it for, in this region, local Michigan Detroiters. We're still waiting for the powers from downtown to save our communities. We're still waiting for the governor to save our schools. We're still waiting for the governor to fix the Flint water crisis. We're just still waiting for everyone else to make it right for us. One caller was so eloquent in saying that, you know what, the truth is we were better off when we were forced to live amongst each other, when we were segregated. And I said, wow, that's so interesting, because at the end of the day, how many of us would actively choose to stay living amongst each other so that we can create our own communities? Because everyone else creates their communities, and it's about choice. No one else is forced to live together. And when they get the options, they don't immediately run to other places where the perception is housing is going to be better, schools are going to be better, living conditions are going to be better, police response time is going to be better. Don't you realize that you, the people, make the community? So if you don't have yourself together where you are right here, when you move on out to the suburbs, it's going to be the same you in the suburbs. Didn't we show a clip or so a couple of weeks ago, and T.D. Jakes was saying that, well, yeah, you can have this New Year resolution, and you can have this fancy car, you can have these great clothes, but if it's the same you that you put in the fancy car, it means nothing. It's the same you put in the fancy clothes, it means nothing. And so at the end of the day, we're still brought here on this day, at this space and time, at this moment right here, a little bit, maybe half, quarter after 7, to ask ourselves, where are we in this dream? And if you say, well, Collette, I don't really identify with that at the time, because the civil rights time with the kickoff with the bus boycotts and Rosa Parks and all that, I don't really resonate with that. Well, okay, let me give you something right now that maybe you'll think a little differently, okay? So what do you think about President Trump? Members sat down in a group. It was a caucus, if you will, a private session, and we're going to bring up a clip and show you that momentarily. But they were having a conversation about how we can work together, because, you know, in politics, you have to give and take. There has to be a compromise. One side is willing to give a little bit to get a little bit. And so the conversation was, well, what do we have to do in order to agree on some terms that will give the president some leniency or some wiggle room with his wall issue, and we can address immigration? And so it's become national headlines that it was noted that the president made comments about he doesn't want Haitians or people from other African countries or even El Salvador. And he specifically said in the room, and people heard him, and he used the expletive, the whole countries. Why do we have to have them come? Why couldn't we have some people come from, like, Norway? Are you kidding me? I mean, so a lot of people were shocked, right? They were shocked that he actually said it. But are you more shocked that he said it, or are you shocked that you don't believe that that is what he thinks? Period. And so what is more damaging, the fact to know how people think and feel about you, even if they don't say it, but their works and their policy and their power have an immediate impact on every aspect of your life versus them just coming right out and saying it. Yeah, I don't want the colored folks up in here. That's just not well. I mean, we had some conversations and some clips previous in with his comments, President Trump's comments, because he is the president. He was elected by the people to be the president. That's the majorative vote. So there are people who believe his ideology. And don't you think it's really interesting now how those other Republicans, they still might sit and kind of say something about him, but it's still not taking that joker out of office. He's still not being impeached. And so now they try to put it on dementia. Oh, well, maybe he has an onset of dementia, maybe a little bit. He's just saying things. People really can't control him. But isn't that who he has been in America, period? I posted an article that, again, we're the ones that were brought in on the morality clause of America because we're just not going to do all these things because we're just taught that that's not what we're supposed to do, and so we're just not going to do them, while everyone else is just running, raping America. President Trump has earned some $35+ million this year in selling out properties as president. Branding, exposure, relationships. And so he's creating and amassing his own personal wealth continuously on the backs of others. Because that is who America is. So I'm asking us, in understanding this dream, of whose dream again was it? And it's great to have a dream, but have we bought into the dream? And then if we bought into the dream, what dream are we buying into? This ideology that it's going to be inequality. When all the Constitution was made, you know we weren't even considered in that. It wasn't for black and brown people. It wasn't. And that's okay, though. So that's what I want us to understand. And dealing with the truths of things. Remember, we said in 2018, remember, we collectively agreed, you and I, we agreed that we are going to walk in truths, and no matter what, in dealing with the truth, you will create a viable solution that will make it advantageous. But you have to first deal in the truth. You can't trick yourself. Because you'll never get to the truth, and you keep tricking yourself. I keep trying to make myself believe something that it is not what it was, is what it is. No. Deal with it. We know it's what it is. So how do we make the injustices work for us? And that is what we have to be committed to. So what I'm going to do, callers, this is what I want you to do. I want you to hold the line. I know all the lines are lit. I want us to go to this clip. We're going to show, I'm going to set the tone for who America really thinks should be, who the President Trump thinks really should be in America, what America should look like. I think it's kind of Hitlerish. It reminds me of a Hitler-type statement and conversation and ideology. And then we're going to get to the phones because we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about today the H&M ad where the young man was the model and his shirt said the coolest monkey in the jungle. Black young man. And then the Caucasian young boy said he's the survival expert. And so everyone was in an uproar and everyone's talking about the boycott, but the young man's mother, the black boy's mother, said, I don't understand what the problem is. Why are you all up in arms? It's no big deal. Even when Sean John offered $1 million contract to the little boy as a model for Sean John, Puffy Combs. Sean Combs. But she said, well, what's the big deal? Why are you all in an uproar? And then no one had a problem with it. So everybody, it passed all the litmus tests. It passed all the smell tests, all the visuals for the in-house staff, for their ad agencies, for corporate. Everybody agreed because no one had a problem with that imagery. We can talk about that. And then maybe we're going to talk about Oprah. And so now are you so excited that this potential bid for Oprah to be the president? Do we even know what a president does anymore? Do we even care what governance looks like for America? Or with the election or selection of President Trump, that we have just all changed and believe that as long as I can create a narrative for you, I can create a persona for you to believe I am who I am, then it can transcend into all aspects of our lives and it's supposed to be good for all of us. So we believe that because Donald Trump was an alleged successful businessman, no, negative. But the belief was, the image was, the whole show concept was Donald Trump and he's the master of all and you're fired. We believe that, so now he's going to make government great for us. How's that working for us? Are we living the dream? We're going to go to the clip. You guys hold on, and we're going to begin the conversation, okay? How's that sound?
7 of the Trump administration, and on so many previous nights, if you're among our regular viewers, you know we've reported on what's been described as surprising or even shocking comments from this president. But tonight, we begin with a report of truly astonishing, offensive, and racist remarks attributed to the commander-in-chief of this nation. They include a word not allowed to be spoken in most households where children are present. The wording at the bottom of your screen is indeed a first for all of us. The quotes were first reported late this afternoon by Josh Dawsey of the Washington Post, who will join us here in just a moment. President Trump using the expletive on your screen, familiar to a lot of us, but unusual coming from our president during an Oval Office meeting with lawmakers at the White House to work out a bipartisan deal on immigration policy. Washington Post reports that the president became frustrated, and according to several people briefed on the meeting, he asked, quote, "Why are we having all these people from blank hole countries come here?" Trump said, according to these people, referring to African countries and Haiti. He then suggested that the United States should instead bring more people from countries like Norway. The Post continues, "Why do we need more Haitians?" Trump said, according to people familiar with the meeting. "Take them out." Our NBC News colleagues, Casey Hunt and Ali Vitale, report that a Democratic aide briefed on the meeting also confirmed the president's remarks. Here is how the White House responded to the reporting tonight without a denial, notably, quote, "Certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries, but President Trump will always fight for the American people. The president will only accept an immigration deal that adequately addresses the visa lottery system and chain migration, two programs that hurt our economy and allow terrorists into our country." We should note the New York Times filed a report last month about another meeting back in June during which the president referred to Haitians saying, quote, "They all have AIDS," he grumbled, according to one person who attended the meeting and another person who was briefed about it. He's also reported to have added about Nigerians, once they had seen the United States, they would never go back to their huts in Africa, recalled the two officials. The White House denied those comments at the time. There have been many reactions to these reports of tonight's comments. Republican Congresswoman Mia Love of the state of Utah, who happens to be a Haitian American, issued this statement. She writes, quote, "The president's comments are unkind, divisive, elitist, and fly in the face of our nation's values. This behavior is unacceptable from the leader of our nation. My parents came from one of those countries, but proudly took an oath of allegiance to the United States and took on the responsibilities of everything that being a citizen comes with. The president must apologize to both the American people and the nations he so wantonly maligned." This came from the Congressional Black Caucus. Quote, "President Trump's comments are yet another confirmation of his racially insensitive and ignorant views. It also reinforces the concerns that we hear every day that the president's slogan, 'Make America Great Again,' is really code for 'Make America White Again.'" Let us turn to our leadoff panel for a Thursday night. Josh Dawsey, White House reporter for the Washington Post, who again broke this story this afternoon. We welcome back to our broadcast Franco Ordonez, White House correspondent for McClatchy Newspapers, who covers immigration and foreign affairs, and Shannon Pettypiece, White House correspondent for Bloomberg, last seen by us participating in today's White House briefing in the press room. Josh, walk us through your reporting and set the scene where this quote occurred.
Right. So here's what we understand happened today, Brian. There were a number of senators and congressmen who came to the Oval Office for a meeting on DACA. It was a bipartisan meeting. They hoped to present the president with a deal on immigration that gave him some money for his wall, gave him some of the measures he wants, like curbing the visa lottery system, while extending the DACA provision. In the meeting, the bipartisan group said to the president that they wanted to curb a number of folks in the visa the lottery like the president did by 50%. But in the 50%, they wanted to make sure those folks were from protected countries, from some African countries, from Haiti. The president grew incensed at this. He said, as you reported, he doesn't want people from shithole countries. In Haiti, he said he didn't want any more people from Haiti. He said make sure they were out of the deal. And he made it clear that he wanted immigrants from places like Norway. And our sources say he also said Asian countries where he thinks, you know, there will be well-educated folks who come here who can economically contribute to America. He was very clear in the kinds of immigrants he wanted and where he did not want them from. And it kind of took lawmakers aback. I think the comments were a bit mystifying to folks in the room. It's just not something they expected the president of the United States to say.
Franco, political types tonight couldn't say fast enough, well, you know, the base will either greet this or welcome this or certainly dismiss it. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is the continent of Africa, home to what, just shy of 1 billion people, home to some of our very best young men and women in uniform, American members of the armed forces. And as they like to say, the whole world is watching. People can hear these words.
No doubt. I mean, these are top stories in all, so much of the European press. I mean, this is the kind of thing, unfortunately, that can kind of whip up anti-American sentiment. And that is an issue that's been going on with some of these type of outbursts that Donald Trump has said. And as you point out, I mean, not many people know, but we have a lot of troops in Africa. We have 6,000 troops, the Pentagon announced just recently, in Africa after those 4 troops had passed away. And these type of comments are not going to make their life, the work that they're doing, any easier. The same could be said about Haiti, in El Salvador. There is an anti-immigrant sentiment there that can be drummed up, and that's not going to be good for our diplomats and or our relationship with allies.
Of course, this is also the anniversary of the earthquake that leveled parts of Haiti, what, 8 years ago. Shannon, no denial from the White House, but have you picked up any regrets on your radar?
Not yet. As you read that statement, was certainly not a denial, not backwalking these comments. They have denied comments that the White House had made previously, those comments that you had read about the president saying, the New York Times reported that Haitians all have AIDS. So they could have denied this, but there were too many people in the room and too many people who have confirmed this reporting that Josh first broke. I mean, do they regret it? Now I think they're going to see that this is going to make it even harder to come up with some sort of immigration deal, which was the whole point of all this. The Republicans have been working diligently to try and get some deal with the Democrats. They are trying to frame this immigration debate as one about national security, about stopping drugs, stopping crime. And then the president makes these comments that portray it so clearly as an issue of immigration on the immigrants we want versus the ones we don't. And by the way, the immigrants we want are white, and the immigrants we don't just happen to be black or African American, or, you know, from Africa or from Haiti.
And so we appreciate the clip from MSNBC. I was able to put that together because I wanted you to get an insight, especially just from the reporter who broke the news from the Washington Post. But you saw it and you heard it. And then it's so interesting because, again, this is nothing new. So where we're sitting back and everyone is appalled and we're wondering how can this be okay, you recall that we had how many years of slavery and everyone sat back and watched it happen and didn't do anything to stop it? At the deaths upon deaths upon deaths of people that they looked at as not having a value? And what did it fall down to? It came down to revenue. That's what it was about. I promise you, if they could figure out some kind of way to be able to enslave and get free labor from the citizens and the people in Haiti, and African countries, because they are people. We are people. This is we're human beings. From the people in Haiti, from the people in other African countries, and the people in El Salvador. If they could figure out some kind of way to be able to enslave them to get labor, they'd let them come on over. Wouldn't be a problem at all. So I guess my thing is, when people show you who they are, to what extent are we going to go until we believe them? I just really want to know. Because, hello, know about slavery in America. We know about the original people, the native people to this land, our brothers and sisters who were here thriving and doing our thing, and then they're going to come on over to take stuff. I mean, this is who America was created to be, and has created legislation to show us, and to create legislation to create wealth on the backs of everyone else, and we act like we don't know. And as we again are entering in the celebration of the dream, I have a dream speech for the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, we are still inundated with the likes of who America is. So I'm going to go to the line right now. And then I want to bring up shortly, I want to say this, I want to know if it matters to you also. Donald Trump signed a bill this week upgrading Martin Luther King's birthplace to a national historic park. We're going to talk about that. He signed the bill aboard Air Force One on Monday. It was upgrading the birthplace of civil rights icon Dr. Martin Luther King to a national historic park. So we'll talk about that. I want to know, do you even care? So is that supposed to be a park? So then the young boy who had the shirt that he was the coolest monkey can live in the park like the jungle? Like, do you put the narratives together? So it's a park now? I mean, here. Okay, I can't. Like little kids. I can't. So I'm going to go to you. Let's have the conversation. Thanks for your patience. Great morning to you.
How you doing today, dear?
Amazing. How are you, 8 Mile?
All right. First, I got to give a shout out to TV 33, Comcast 91, WHPR, Highland Park, Detroit.
Yes.
We got to give a shout out to RJ Watkins, Steve Tyler,
Sure.
Miss Perryman,
Yes.
Miss Collette yourself,
Thank you.
Mr. Jones,
Sure.
Money Making Diva, the Hair Doctor,
Sure.
and rest in peace, J.D. Hill, and all other TV show hosts. Thank you for showing that clip
Okay.
about Donald Trump. Because I remember last year, I made the comment that for somebody to be president of the United States, he should at least won some type of public vote. He should at least serve in the armed forces since he's become the #1 soldier boy of the country.
Okay.
He should at least work for federal, state, county, city government. He ain't done none of that.
Great.
But he's the leader of our country.
Sure.
So I have really no personal comment about that man. I can just talk about his work.
Okay.
Because I know, and I will say this, and it's going to be the last time you're going to hear me say this on TV.
Okay.
I was the first one on your TV show to say it. I've said it at least 3 times, but this is the last time.
Okay.
My man is the Klan.
I'm sorry, you said he's the Klan, like the Ku Klux Klan?
He is the Ku
Oh,
Klux
sure.
Klan.
Sure.
Now, by the Klan, the one that set up his political organization, meaning he didn't even have no campaign officers in the 50 states. So how all of a sudden there was people to attend the meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Stay
It was
there for
on-
wait. So hold on for 1 second, because I really want us to really get this. And a lot of times people think that you have to be a part of a titled organization to display your membership or an agreement with the ideology. So if Donald Trump had never gone to a Ku Klux Klan meeting, as it was reported that his dad was a member of, if your ideology is that prescribes to what the Klan believes, how the Klan works, the oppressiveness of other people, the uplifting of this quote-unquote superior race, that is you. So if it looks like a duck, acts like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's a duck. So I don't want people to say, oh, well, no, we never got any paper, we never saw. No. That's in everything. If it looks like it, if someone shows you who they are, you better believe them. So please continue.
Now, remember, in Charlotte,
Okay.
it was Charlottesville, Virginia. It was 2 incidents. It was an incident that happened at the nighttime, and there was an incident that happened during the day.
Yes.
Now, the people during the day, those were the visible, the knuckleheads, okay? Meaning right now, in the hood, we have the knuckleheads that we see, but those are not the ones that's really running the politics. Those are not the ones that's bringing all of the crime, the dope, and the illegal money to our community. But we see these little gangs, and we see the people that's out here rolling, and we think that they're the ones calling shots, and they're not.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, you've never seen anybody grow poppy seed in the United States. You've never seen nobody grow no cocaine. I know for the last 30 years, that's been in our community here in the city of Detroit for 30 years straight.
Sure.
So let's go back to Charlottesville.
Sure.
Yeah, we saw a person drive a car and kill somebody, and everybody talked about it. But what about the night before? Okay, there's a book called The Fairy Cross that talk about Klan culture. And right now, the night before, you're going to tell me that it was 200 people walking around a college campuses with artificial torches.
Yes.
And nobody ain't saying nothing?
Yes.
Now, if you ever really know what the Klan is about, they call it Night Riders. That was a historical event of the Night Riders.
Yes.
But guess what? Right now, 200 of us go down to Wayne State. If 100 of us go down to Wayne County Community College District and walk around like that, you're going to jail.
Man, look, you don't even have stay right there. Stay right there. You don't even have to get 100 people. Get 10 of y'all in a circle and see if someone's going to come and say, "Excuse me, can I help you with something? Are you all waiting for something? Are you convening?
Okay.
Are you about to leave?" It doesn't need to be 100, it's 10. Put 10 people of color, 10 black men in a group and see what happens.
But it was 200 people walking around on the college campus, and they were not disturbed. We saw the videos that they talked about what they were going to do.
Sure.
200 people can walk around in Atlanta at nighttime on your typical college in the United States without police involvement.
200?
Okay.
No. Let me hold on. Let me add a part to that. 209 people of color can walk and do anything that they want to do, and so much so then that the police people probably stop and say, "Can I help you? Is there something that you're doing that you need us to help you with? Do we need to sit and have the sirens on to make sure you get safe passage? Do we need to have some lights for you? Do we need to get you some refreshments?" I mean, stop it. And let me just and hear me. And I'm not trying to make fun of anything, but to your point, that's just like this whole slow roll bicycle thing. Don't y'all think it's so interesting? Like when you see the slow roll, you actually see police officers navigating traffic so these people can ride through the hoods safely. The police are helping them ride through the hoods safely, but we can't get a police on a call.
That's where we saw that.
I'm sorry?
What the slow rollers have been in Detroit, riding around on bikes for, we'll just say, 10 years now.
Sure.
Okay? They came out because they started questioning Detroit residents about driving, so some of them just started riding around their bikes. We live in a city where people really don't even see bikes as an acceptable form of transportation. Mm-hmm. But when you start seeing people from the suburbs riding around with those slow rollers, where they can go from 8 Mile all the way around in one Detroit, that's when you see police protection.
Yeah.
You didn't see police protection for the average person, the average group of people that want to ride around Detroit on bikes.
You can't get a police to come to your house if you got an issue. When I had my domestic issue, it took the police 15 minutes to get there. I live 5 minutes from the police station. It took them 15 minutes to get there. Now, mind you, and I called, and then he called as a titled public official, if you will, of sorts, in his space. You figure he's going to call and they just going to show up, right? It took them 15 minutes to call for a domestic abuse situation. But they can come and usher you in on a bike. They can come and make sure that you all have a safe, peaceful vigil to sit and protest and clan up. They can do that. So, okay. So are we living the dream or not? So where are we at is what I want to know.
I'll just say this. Right now here in the city of Detroit, there's a percentage of police officers, fire officials, certain city officials. They're called community police. I can't hate on all of them. You know why? Because right now, when it comes down to the violent element in our city, there is still some police officers that will come to help us. Sure. We're not talking about the sweaters. We're not talking about the ones that never lived here. We're talking about the ones that can see you as a family member.
Well, let me just say this. And let me say this. And of course, we're not making generalizations about any and all things, but the same ones who are prejudiced against you because it is their job, they'll come and make the call. So let's just be clear about that. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to understand the underlying essence of who people are. So it doesn't mean that they won't respond to the call because that is who they're supposed to be as policing officers or as fire officials. But that doesn't mean that they're going to value. There's a value and a supportive effort in the work that they're going to do when they finally get there. So it's no different than Donald Trump. So when he finally got into office, all of the truths of who he is and how he's been conducting his business and how he's done unfair labor practices and how he's gone to miss fiscal management, all that then creates a bigger platform for him because now he is the president. So now I can say to you, well, I don't want people from those countries coming over here. The truth is everybody believes that. He just said it. That's why
He
people
was saying
ain't
stuff
got a
like that
problem
before
with
he
it.
became president. So that's nothing shoot. But the fact of right now we have a person who is biased and only supportive of his own agenda,
Sure.
in my opinion, should not be the person running this country, whereas we have different people, different backgrounds, different mindsets that have been making this country successful.
Okay.
But you want to know when somebody said, it's a person from the leader, and this is what they said. We talking about this country. Meaning, I live in the state of Michigan, and they live in the state of Ohio.
Okay.
And what we know about the last 20, 30 years is, if you really wanted somebody to make this country stay on the same path that it's been going 30 years,
Okay.
you voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Black people voted for Trump.
Yes.
Hispanics voted for Trump. Christian people voted for Trump.
Yes.
Because anybody who was benefiting off the way this country has been going the last 30 years, they were not going to support Hillary Clinton. Because this country ain't ready for no woman to run all those Caucasian males that's up in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. So why are we surprised? I appreciate your call, Amon. I know I'm going to get back to you that second part of the hour because we need to talk about an event. I want to make sure I get everybody in. So thank you. So everyone, I mean, you heard it. So again, when the chickens come home to roost, when people start pulling off, they take it, he was getting comfortable. He was taking off his clothes. So he got home. He was in his house. He could, loosen up his tie. He probably did. Put his feet up. And he just felt real comfortable. Now I'm in this little private room, and I can just tell you what I really think because the truth is you all were thinking it anyway. I just articulated. Let's see what you have to say. Thanks for your call. Great morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Colette.
Good morning, Deputy Chief. How are you?
I'm good.
Great.
Hey, look, just to differ, not differ, but drift from your subject just a little.
Sure.
We need to have everyone flood the Michigan Democratic Party. Call them at 517-371-5410 and speak with Brandon Dillon and demand that he remove Jonathan Kinloch from the chair of the 13th Congressional District. And here's why. In 2012, former U.S. Rep. Thaddeus McCarter resigned.
Okay.
He was the 11th Congressional District Congressman. Okay?
Okay.
The Lieutenant Governor, Brian Kelly, said Michigan law and the United States Constitution require him to fill that it required him to fill, and he have no choice but to act to fill that seat. So we have to have a special election.
Okay.
Now, the 11th district is predominantly white. The 11th district is the home of Mike Duggan.
Okay.
We haven't heard nothing from Brandon Dillon. If this is the law, we haven't heard from Brandon Dillon. We haven't heard anything from the mayor of Detroit, who is a Democrat. We haven't heard from the council members, to my knowledge. And to have the so-called Democratic 13th Congressional District chair confer with the governor when this is supposed to be the law, then we have a major problem here. If it's the law, and if it's Michigan law, and if it's violating the Constitution of the United States, why is it necessary for the governor to confer with Warren Evans, the county exec, Mike Duggan, the carpetbag mayor, and Jonathan Kinlock.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and I appreciate how you outlined that for everyone. So let me just ask you. Okay, so I'm, I'm being really honest, right? I'm just really being honest. So why are we calling Brandon Dillon to have him to remove Kinlock when Brandon Dillon is the chair? So as the chair, that means you are the head of this organization for this state. So shouldn't we be calling to have a conversation with Brandon Dillon as to what is the plan and policy under this state for how we should be functioning? Because I am trying to understand how Kinlock then becomes the scapegoat in this versus Dillon.
Well, because Kinlock publicly supports the governor. Now, if this is the law, if this is Michigan law, and if this is in violation of the Constitution of the United States, and Kinlock is supporting the 13th Congressional District not having representation, then something is wrong here. Okay?
Well, okay, so stay there. So again, we're putting the power for our outcome on a person. So I thought, again, Dillon is a representation of the people who are Democrats, who are part and have membership in the party. I thought that Kinlock was then elected by the people under this district to represent the people as a part of their membership. So doesn't the ownership come back on the people then who's supposed to govern these representatives?
Well, what I'm saying, Kinlock is, okay, Kinlock is the problem. Brandon Dillon, if he don't do what we're demanding, then he's part of the problem. And like you say, you're right. Then we deal with Brandon Dillon.
Well, I thought that Brandon, first of all, I just think that all of them are the problem. I understand what you're saying. This is but one example. But where has the party overall been? Where have they been?
When we talk about holding people accountable, hey, this is 2018. In 2018, when they have the Democratic convention, you're going to have everybody running down to Cobo Hall. Let's get in. Let's work with the Democrats. Let's do this. Da-da-da-da-da. You're going to have all the black community organizations.
The same people, yes.
The grassroots organizations, they're going to be down there hobnobbing. Let's get on the bus. Let's do this. Let's do that. Hey, we have a problem here. If white people must have representation in the 11th district, then how is it that black people, it's not necessary for black people to have representation in the 13th? And this situation in the 11th was corrected or handled, if you will, in 6 weeks. That seat was filled.
Because we don't demand it. So stay there, Deputy Chief. I mean, again, let's just talk about what it really is, right?
I know what it really is.
Right, but I'm just saying, we still keep going to the people, quote unquote, who oppress us, who don't go and do the work and expect them to fix it. So you actually think, now I'm just playing the devil's advocate, right? I'm going to be the kazoo on the shoulder. So you actually think that, people are going to call Brandon Dillon, who's a chairman up in Lansing, to talk about this particular issue when no one has called, the party overall leadership hasn't stood up and effectively created a change in any other issues around education, around water, around housing, around blight, around anything other than to say that we're just meeting because we're going to meet and it's the same old groups that have a platform. And hear me, I'm not mad if that is just your platform and you don't want to create something with purpose in your platform. But say that. If you just want busy work and just to walk around and say I'm having a meeting because then I want this different person to run the party and I want somebody else different, then just say that. But we don't have to come up with these little situations, because the whole existence of who we are, specifically to Detroit and in the state, is an issue. It's a bunch of shenanigans. And we've lived it consistently. So the truth is, I don't believe that the conversations with Chairman Dillon are going to give any other different results. I don't believe that the conversation with Kinlock is going to yield any different results. I don't believe that there is going to be an election prior to the 11 months that has already been allocated, because everybody is looking for their own platform. Period.
Well, this is America now. I'm telling you, Collette.
I hear you.
If the people handle their business and demand that Dylan speak, let Dylan tell us that he will not remove Kinlock and why.
Wait, stay there, Deputy Chief. Wait a minute. Deputy Chief, stay there. Why does he have to tell us when his actions show that he's not?
Because we need to hear from him.
Oh, you got to hear it versus what he shows you. So I thought that if you do nothing, that still shows something. So the simple fact that we're doing nothing and everyone was okay with Conyers sitting down and everyone's been okay because all people were trying to talk about is who's going to now run for the seat versus the real conversation is how the people should be represented until the seat is filled. So if the narrative has already been shaped because we're already trying to jock for a position. So the whole narrative should have been who's going to represent the people. How the people going to be represented? But clearly nobody has had that conversation from the chairman on down to anybody else because everyone's trying to figure out how to put their man in, or how to put their woman in.
Okay, Collette.
I'm just saying.
And I'm just saying the problem is white people in other congressional districts in Michigan, it's important for them to have representation.
Of course.
But in a predominantly black congressional district, we don't have to have representation.
Absolutely. And guess what? And you're absolutely right. And we don't have to have representation because we don't demand that we have representation.
Well, that's why I'm saying to call Brandon Dillon, and that's what I said. Demand.
No, I think you and I are having two different conversations because I believe that you're trying to hold the oppressor accountable for a different action when we're all complacent in it. So Brandon Dillon didn't just become the chairman. Kinlock just didn't become. So look, so if we want to really keep it real for this year, this is what I really want us to do. Tell me really what you want. Tell me who you want to be the chair of the party for Michigan. So if you don't want Dillon, say Collette, I want so-and-so. If you want Kinlock out, say
Collette,
I want so-and-so.
What I'm demanding is accountability. Okay? It don't matter to me if Boo Boo the Fool is the chair. I want accountability. Everybody hooping and hollering about accountability, holding the feet to the fire. That's what we want. If we don't speak up as black people, we're going to continue getting screwed around.
Okay. That at least at the end of the conversation, we can agree to that. And I'm going to say maybe we just like to be screwed around with. Maybe that's just what we like.
And so, again, everyone need to call 517-371 5410 and demand that Brandon Dillon remove Jonathan Kinlock.
I appreciate your call, Deputy Chief. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So everyone, you heard it. So Deputy Chief has a position that we should call Brandon Dillon, who happens to be he's the chair of the Michigan party, and so now he is supposed to remove Jonathan Kinlock. But you all can let me know if you agree that that should be a plan of action if you're going to call, and he gave you the number. I'd like to hear if you agree to that approach. So removing Jonathan Kinlock then is going to give us an election quicker. Is that what's going to happen? I don't know. I want you all to think about it. I'm up against a break, so we're going to take a break. We're going to enter into the top of the hour. All the lines are lit. We're going to go to the lines. We're going to continue the conversation. I got another couple clips to throw in there for you because we're going to get to the end of all of this. We're going to either decide, are we going to keep waiting for somebody else to save us by playing musical people. So I'm just going to move some people out because of personal issues and reasons and try to put some other people in so then I can position myself if I get somebody else elected? Or are we going to do stuff outside and exercise our power as the people? Do you understand that those are two separate things, or do you believe that they're all one thing? They're two separate things. You keep giving your power away. We keep giving our power away. Period. That's what has consistently happened. It won't change when you don't. Do you all? And so just tell me, if you have consistently been doing it the way that everyone has suggested, how's that working for you? We've been consistently moving the same people around in the same positions because we all want to have a platform, because we all want to put our girl and guy in so we can now have a title, so now we can sit at the table. And if you sit at the table and everybody else is still starving. So for me, changing out Jonathan Kinlock doesn't fix us still not having an election. What does that have to do? What does that have to do with us not having an election? The conversation is, why isn't anyone calling the governor? So why aren't we calling Brandon Dillon to call Governor Snyder out and have all the parties across the Michigan Democrats across this great state of ours say, look, we need to demand something for the rights of the people? That's who we should be calling. Snyder's the one that determined the special election or not. Not Dillon or Jonathan Kinlock. But maybe I don't understand it. Maybe you're going to help me out. We're going to take a break. Then we're going to be back. All right? Don't go anywhere. You want to stay tuned for this conversation. We'll be right back.